thank you so much for joining us. As I mentioned before, we have Mosquito Steve and Steve Moore here with us. As always, you can invest in these companies real time by going to netcapital.com and searching Mosquito Steve. I will also include a direct link in the chat. And I'd like to share that this is being recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. Of course, you can only see myself and Steve, so don't worry about yourselves, but I'd always like to share that with our participants. Last little bit of housekeeping here. There is Q&A functionality built into Zoom. We'd love to keep this as interactive as possible, so please jump into that Q&A, ask any questions you have. And I know there is also chat functionality, but please do use Q&A. It makes it easier for us to track the questions and help us make sure that we answer as many of those as possible. So thanks again to our attendees for joining us, and thanks to our panelist, Mosquito Steve. So Steve Moore, why don't you just tell us a little bit really quickly about Mosquito Steve, and then we'll talk about the team and everything else after that.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. So, so I started in the mosquito industry back in 2001. I was in the remodeling business, and we were working on a home outside of home, and my guys were not getting bit by mosquitoes, and we were just astonished. And turns out this guy had to hire somebody from Houston to come up to Dallas to install a misting system. So, so I decided that I wanted to go in that business. I became the first guy to do misting systems in Dallas. And so that was a long time ago. And back then, misting systems actually worked very well. The problem is that it was twofold. First of all, misting systems are very expensive. And I don't know if y'all are familiar, it depends on what part of the world you're in, if they've got misting systems where you are, but basically it's a system of a drum with a bunch of fluid in it and tubing going around a yard with a bunch of nozzles. And it will mist out whatever the product is. And that will, usually it'll do it for like 60 seconds or so. And that will either kill insects or chase them away. So at the time, I didn't know much about mosquitoes in the industry. And so I went ahead and I bought in with everybody else. Oh, this pyrethroids and all this stuff. They tell you that it comes from a chrysanthemum. So it's not, oh my gosh, it comes from a flower. How bad could it be? Well, it turns out it's pretty bad. I mean, the thing is, if you and I were to try and harvest those flowers, those particular chrysanthemums, we would get sick and possibly die. So those are not your everyday chrysanthemums that people have growing in their yard. But anyways, we were told over and over by the chemical companies, this stuff is safe, you don't have to worry about it, and all this kind of stuff. And turns out, first of all, it's and they've been using those products since the 50s. Okay, so pyrethrin itself has been around since really for about 100 years. So so they've been using the products a long time, and there haven't been a lot of innovation as far as the products go. What they do is mosquitoes have built resistance to pyrethroids. So what they do is they add more piperonyl butoxide, and that's way too technical for some of y'all, but the deal is they add something called PBOs or piperonyl butoxide, and they keep increasing that amount of the PBOs because it actually was what makes pyrethrins and permethrin work. But we sold the heck out of systems. But 2 months into it, I realized the big problem at the time was they're expensive. Misting systems are very expensive. So I invented my first product in 2002. We got a patent on it in 2004. It was the all clear mosquito mister. And the little thing, it actually worked really, really well. In 2006, we got a $4 million investment in it. And I signed up these guys, and but I didn't know. This was the first time I done anything like this. We had horrible paperwork. I basically gave them my company is what happened. They owned 80% of the company to start. So you can imagine they pushed me around quite a bit, and I didn't even own my 100% of the 20%. So I owned very little of it. They ignored my specifications, and they built a machine. Actually, our first ones that I was involved with worked really, really well. But then they decided to save money and build them in China, and they started putting 110 PSI. There's some, if you're going to do any kind of misting, you got to have the right pressure, the right kind of nozzle. And what they did is they dropped the pressure down to 110 psi. What happened was the droplets came out of the machine, fell to the ground. I saw what was happening, made me nervous. I wasn't getting along with the engineers, and so I actually left the company, and or actually we discussed it. It was a mutual leaving, and I didn't know what I was going to do because I really didn't think they could run this business without me because none of these people knew anything about mosquitoes. And so what happened? They were just not going to ever call me back, and so I went to them after a while. I had discovered some natural products that actually work better than the chemicals. And when I was doing my research, and my research entails me standing outside and counting how many mosquitoes land on me. So it's called human landing rate counts. That's what sets me apart from the other guys is people stopped doing that in 1999 because West Nile virus hit the United States and people are afraid to get sick and die. So I actually have a really great immune system, and I'm a big guy, and so I do human landing rate counts. I've done thousands and thousands of them. I've been bit by more than 2,000 mosquito bites. I've had more than 2,000 bites in one night, just one night. And so I stand outside, I count how many mosquitoes land on me, and then I put the stuff on, or I spray it in the yard or whatever, and I continue to count, sometimes for up to 8 hours. And so it can be a grueling task, but it's still the National Institute of Health still calls it the gold standard of testing. And there really isn't, like, especially for repellency, there is no testing in a lab for repellency that works. The only thing they've got is stick your arm in a cage. And that's not even very accurate because most of the mosquitoes that they have in those cages are grown in a laboratory. Mosquitoes, what's amazing about mosquitoes is every time they lay eggs, those are more advanced than the last generation. So there are literally every time, I mean, they are constantly, so they build resistance really, really fast. And so that's why they become resistant to the pyrethroids. So anyway, so that's what I do. So I do my research and I discovered those natural products, and I went back to those same investors that had taken advantage of me, and I said, hey guys, how about this? I've got these natural products. If you will help fund this research, then I'll give you part of the company. And they said, you know what? We don't believe green pesticides are the future of the industry. So that tells you, this was in 2007 and 8. And I mean, I think everybody knew that green pesticides are the future of the industry back then, but they didn't. And so they released me from my non-compete. All that's to say, starting in 2008, I realized that natural products really were the direction to go. That the poisons that we've been spraying, most of these guys are lying. Most guys in the industry have no idea how well their products work. You know why? Because they've never tested them themselves. They're going by laboratory testing from some big chemical company. So what I do is I test not just my products, but I test everybody else's products because I want to know how ours compare. So, and you're probably saying, well, you need a third party. Guess what? So I've had 3 independent entomologists that have validated my testing. One of them, I think the report is on Net Capital, so you can read that. And so they actually stand out there and watch. Now, it's hard to find somebody to do that because they don't even want to stand out there with me and watch, especially in some of the places where I go. I've had places where we've had more than 100 mosquitoes a minute landing on my legs. I mean, they're landing on me so fast, I can't even count them. And so most entomologists don't want to go through that. But I found one that did, and he wrote that report up. And he told me he didn't believe in it. So I don't believe you're getting that many mosquitoes, A, and B, I don't believe that your product could possibly work. And that's kind of the thing with entomologists and pest control guys. They don't believe that natural products will work. And so that's been my thing. So what I realized at the time is that people are not going to switch from natural products from chemicals to natural products. They're not going to do that unless the natural products work. And I proved that. I actually went about 5 years ago to Whole Foods and I talked to a buyer there because I had a couple of stores that the customer said, you need to get this guy in your store. So I went and talked to this buyer, and she said, well, I said, well, here's the thing. What you're selling down there is actually not a very effective product. And it's one of the least effective I've tested. I've got products that actually work. She put her hand over her ears and said, I don't want to know how well the products work. And I was like, wait, what are you talking about? A couple of years later, I ended up meeting the head buyer for non-food products at Whole Foods, and he basically said the same thing. And what I tried to tell him is, look, people go to Whole Foods thinking that y'all know natural products and you know what you're selling. They trust you. And if you're selling a product that doesn't work, it doesn't just affect the mosquito business, it affects all the businesses. Now, look, all natural products. People, and that's the thing is, up to this point, the natural products business is only about 20% of most industries. And so part of it is we've got to start teaching people, look, there are ways to test. And look, how about this? Because they said, we don't know how to test. Well, just ask for efficacy data. How about that? And that's all they have to do. So anyways, that's really it's been about educating people. But I decided at the time that I wanted to have a full line of products because I want to be able to hit the market head on. And so for the last 12 years, we've done local sales here in Dallas, mostly through commercial guys. I have some retailers. We got about 20 retailers, but it's mostly been, just for research so I can talk to customers and see what's working, what's not. And we've been developing these products over and over. And so what we found is that our products have great loyalty. People that try them love them. I've got products that work on anybody. And my products are like, we've got a mosquito repellent that's more effective than any other mosquito repellent in the world. It's 98% effective for more than 4 hours, which would put it, way above Deep Woods Off and Repel. So you don't have to wear DEET. And it smells really good. It goes on light, so you're not spraying, some like Crisco. Honestly, the best product I ever tested really is Burt's Bees. And Burt's Bees mosquito repellent is 100% effective for about an hour and a half. But it's like putting Crisco on your skin or, vegetable oil or something. It's really, really gross. And I don't know anybody that uses it because it's really disgusting to put on your body. So that's what I've been doing. The last 12 years is focused on developing the products, and we've got them now. We've got a full mature product line. In fact, we've got a new display that is really knocking the retailers over. They're loving it. And so that's where we're at. We've got all our product development is done, but we'll continue to do so. And we continue to test our products and everybody else's.
That's fantastic. And I know, we covered a lot of ground there, but I want to make sure that we really bring it all the way home here. What is like what are the main problems with the existing infrastructure right now? Like what is with DEET and for these other chemicals, what are some of the statistics around, kind of diseases caused by mosquitoes and ticks and things? And let's also talk about the statistics around, kind of the negative potential impacts from those chemicals in DEET and other non-green mosquito repellents.
All right. Well, I can tell you right now, I think the biggest thing on most people's minds these days is most of the products that you put in the yard that you're spraying, that the municipalities are spraying, we're killing bees and butterflies and pollinators. And if you don't know, bees are responsible for 1/3 of our food supply in the world. So without some kind of regulation on that, it's actually now this particular year, for some reason, we're actually got an uptick in bee populations, which is really weird. But normally it is, it's going, the bee populations are dropping. So that's a big part of it. Children that grow up in agricultural areas typically have more cases of autism and more cases of learning disabilities. So there's not been, honestly, the studies that are out there, there's not a whole lot. You would think that there was. It's kind of like I was telling you with there's actually there's studies that tell you how safe pyrethrin is and how safe permethrin is and how safe pipernyl butoxide is. Here's the thing. Those are always combined. You've always got pipernyl butoxide when you got permethrin or when you got pyrethrins. There are no studies on the safety of pyrethrins, permethrin, and pipernyl butoxide together. And so if pipernyl butoxide is what gives the pyrethroids the action that makes them effective, I believe it also would make them more potent. and could make them more dangerous. And so, but I tell you, just from firsthand experience. So here's the thing: when you spray, you don't really need my information. Read the back of a label of one of these products. Just read the back of it, and most of them are the same product. They've got different names and everything like that, but it's all the same product. It's pyrethrin, permethrin, and PBOs. But read the back label, and it will tell you right there it kills bees and it kills fish. And so it's illegal to spray pyrethroids over a body of water. And so, that doesn't keep people from doing it, but it is illegal. There's not a huge amount of, unless it's a big corporation, there's not a lot of people, nobody's going to go out there if Joe is spraying pyrethroids over the lake, to keep the spiders off his boat house and boat dock. But all I tell people is just read the labels. It's real simple. So my products are considered EPA exempt. So what that means is all of the ingredients in our product are so safe that the EPA doesn't require us to register. So we actually can even use the words safe on our label and safe in our marketing. And so that means if you see those words connected with a pesticide or repellent, that means it's EPA exempt. Now, that doesn't mean, once again, there's there's a guy called Mosquito Joe. Some of y'all know him if you're in the United States, and here's the deal. He's out there, they're telling people that their product is organic, and they tell them that it's safe, and it's not. Guess what they're spraying? They're spraying the same thing that everybody else sprays. Most of them is Talstar or some form of permethrin, pyrethrins, and PBOs. So, when we had the Zika outbreak a few years back and it hit Florida, even Tom Frieden, the director of the CDC, came out and said, these pesticides aren't really working like we expected them to. And so, I mean, there's a tremendous amount of cover up in the chemical industry, but the truth is that my products beat the tar out of most of these products they're spraying on yards are 50% effective at best. And so what they're doing, here's what's even worse. So we know they're harmful, but what's worse is what these people are doing is they're increasing the amount that they spray. Like they're spraying like the legal amount for pyrethroids in 1,000 cubic feet in America is 14 ounces per day. Most of these misting systems are spraying 14 ounces per hour, sometimes 5, 6, 7 times a day. And that's how they're getting rid of mosquitoes. That's why it's also toxic to the to the bees. What we love about like our commercial guys will go out there and they'll treat a yard, sometimes treat and mist, and then stand out and talk to the customers and watch the bees and butterflies go from flower to flower. So even after we've treated, we haven't affected the pollinators.
No, that's really important. Yeah, and I like that message because it really transcends. Pollinators, the bee population is a global issue. I mean, I know you're in Texas. I'm here in California. I think we all know that maintaining our pollinators is incredibly important while protecting ourselves, while protecting the environment. That really is the name of the game. And so let's take a deeper dive here. And a reminder, everybody, we're about halfway through the hour here. Please do continue to use the Q&A functionality if you want to make sure that this is as interactive as possible. And again, I added the link directly to in the chat where you can go directly to Mosquito Steve's offering page, click the invest button and become part of the family. That is in the chat, or you can go to netcapital.com and search Mosquito Steve, or netcapital.com/companies/mosquito-steve. I always like to make sure that everybody has all the information they need. Circling back to what we're working on here, you talked about a product line, you talked about sprayers, you talked about non-DEET applicants like mosquito repellent. Can you take a deep dive into the products that you offer?
You bet. Well, first of all, let me tell you. So people that try my products, I rarely get somebody that says they don't like them. I mean, they smell good. They go online. But they are effective. And people, so we've got two kinds of spray-on repellent that, which compares to off or Deep Woods off. And one of them is our original formula. It's got more of a citrusy smell. Most females prefer that. But I tell you what, here's the thing. One in about 300 people told me, you know what, your stuff doesn't work. Works on my kids, works on my husband, doesn't work on me. And that happens because we've all got different chemistry. And so, but I don't like hearing things like that. So I spent 3 years trying to develop a new mosquito repellent. So now we have one that we call Super Max. And this one, not only does it repel mosquitoes, it repels ticks. And so, and I don't know if y'all know about ticks, but ticks, there's 300,000 new cases of Lyme disease reported every year. Don't get as many deaths from it, but you do get a lot of cases of Lyme disease from it. And so, so our Super Max actually smells more like a men's cologne. It's really, really great smelling stuff. And you can spray it on a dog and keep ticks off your dogs. And so, so that's huge. But anyway, so that one is 98% effective for more than 4 hours. And so we're real proud of that one. So we've got a lot of products. Let me tell you that one of the things, like I've got a guy that works with me now, Nick Stevens. Nick is our executive vice president. So, and this happens, I can't tell you how many times, but Nick called me up one day and he said, look, Steve said, I'm retired. I'm mowing my yard like 4 times a week. And my wife is about to leave me if I keep that up. And he said, we're sitting on a little bit of money. And he said, I love your products. I love your products. They've saved our vacations. He said, I want to come to work for you for free. And so, so Nick has joined us and he's working for free. Of course, he'll get some equity down the line, and we'll put him on the payroll as soon as I get on the payroll. And so, but anyways, Nick's been great. So Nick has built a couple of $1 million a year businesses. He doesn't have any, $100 million business, but he's built a couple of smaller businesses and sold them and done very, very well. And so Nick is he's driving me and pushing me. He's a hunter. He has pigs and chickens and stuff like that. And so he's familiar with the ag side a little bit. And he had honestly, Nick had the greatest idea. So here's the thing. So I sell to commercial and retail. I've only got about 20 tailors. I've got 4 or 5 different commercial residential guys that go out and they spray yards or they install misting systems, and they use my products in the misting systems, which by the way is a repellent. Our stuff's a repellent, it's not a killer. Or they spray treat the yards. And so so I've got 4 or 5 of those guys. Now that's where I make my money. Those guys actually will spend anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 a month with me. And so, so that's really, I need more of those guys. And that's what Nick said. He said, look, because here's as well as my repellent works, I mean, you have to sell a whole lot of bottles of, my wholesale price is about $4.99 on some of these products, but you got to sell a whole bunch of those to make any money. And so Nick said, well, look, we got to get you cash flowing better than that. So what you need is 100 service providers, not 4. Let's work on the retail, but let's focus on getting those 100 survivors. So what if you had 100 guys that were spending $500 a month with you? I said, okay, I'd take that, or 1,000 guys that are spending $500 a month with you. So what we did is we dropped by the largest, it's in the top 3 largest lawnmower service companies in Dallas. It's called Richardson Saw and Lawn. This guy has thousands of guys that come to him, that buy equipment from him, that get their equipment serviced, that do all that. Thousands of guys that do that. And we dropped by there to talk to him about it. He said, oh my God, he said, I've been looking for somebody like you. I sell the backpack sprayers that these guys use. That's how I knew him, is that I've been buying backpack sprayers from him. He said, I've been looking for a product that I can put in the sprayer. And what's great in Texas, you don't have to have a license to spray my products because they're EPA exempt. So that's the case in about 5 states. And so there is a regulatory agency that helps us out when it comes to that. So so that's what's great. So if we ought to be able to get at least 300 or 400 just in Texas of service providers that can do that through these lawn care guys. So these guys are already at the yards. They've already got the customers. There's, going out there once a week, working their tail off for 20 minutes a yard to make $20. Well, now you just add one guy or add one piece of equipment, and guess what? In that same 20 minutes, you're spraying the yard and you're billing them for $79 instead of 20 or 25 or $30. So all of a sudden they're, these guys, I mean, it's exciting for them because they can make more money. We've got, these are expensive products. Like for instance, I mean, it's about $100 a gallon for our product, and you're going to use about 10 ounces. Well, actually for a yard, you're going to use about 14 to 16 ounces. So you go through it. So it's an expensive product. Well, that's great. These guys love it. They look, the sawn lawn guy, he's happy to make 20-25% on this. So we're going to lose about 25%, but we're going to pick up in volume. And so that's the way we're attacking that. Now we're also going to see the large landscape companies. I have one in Dallas called, it's called Lambert's, and they were actually buying about $5,500 a month from me, just because they only sprayed 30 yards, but they were spraying Jerry Jones's yard and all the oil guys' yards. The problem is that they didn't pay their bills. But I've got another guy that sprays like all the Hunt family and all that. So if we could pick up 4 or 5 of those $5,000 a month customers, and then pick up a couple of hundred of the $500 to $2,000 a month customers, that's going to be our general cash flow. That's going to give us the money to do a lot of the things and really to build out retail more than what we have now. However, we have a great retail lineup, and we're actually, that's the other thing Nick's forced me to do. We went and bought a display, and it's beautiful, and we put the products in, and honestly, I'm just flabbergasted. It's blowing everybody away. Every time somebody sees it, they're like, yeah, count me in. They love this display because it helps them sell products. And so if you go to Home Depot and look in their mosquito section in the spring, there's 150 products there, and you can't tell. I mean, it's crazy. Everything gets lost in there. So using our displays, we really believe that we're going to help push these products. And I think once people try them, I don't think that they're going to switch off of them. So the main thing is we're doing a lot of marketing and advertising, or playing on. We've got some. That's what this crowdfunding campaign I'm hoping is going to do a lot of social media. We're going to be educating people. We're hoping that we have a lot of places so we can say, go to your nearest 7-Eleven or Stripe store, or just while I'm on that, so just so you know, we just picked up a place called Higginbotham Brothers. They've been around for over 100 years. It's a garden and hardware store, and so they've got 40 stores. It's not huge, but you know what? That doubles our retail outlets already just with them. And it just so happens, and it's right down the street from them is a company called Nelson Wholesale. So Nelson Wholesale sells to thousands of feed stores. Well, feed stores are really difficult for me to get in, but here's what's great. We have a product for feed stores because I've got a fly spray that keeps flies off horses and cattle for 3 or 4 days at a time. So, but I don't have time to go out and knock on the doors of the feed stores. So these guys, we believe we're going to be in there. We're talking to them. We've actually got, we're talking to Brookshire's, Tractor Supply. We've got a lot of the retailers that we're talking to. Atwood's is another one. They've only got 80 stores, but you know what? If we get in 250 or 300 stores next year, that's 10 times or 10 to 20 times more than what we're in right now. And yeah. So I think our cash flow next year, the prospect of having a really good cash flow next year is very, very strong.
Oh, that's great, Steve. I really, yeah. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And when we're talking about customer acquisition, those are great avenues, sales channels. Can we talk a little bit about the revenue model and big picture, without too much detail? What is the cost of goods sold versus the margins that you're able to sell them for? This is a relatively high margin product. Is that right?
Well, it starts off we make 100% on our wholesale prices. Okay. However, I will tell you, so we've got some products like our incense, we're making about 300%. But and the retailer makes more than 100%. So they're happy about that. So, but we're doubling our price on just about everything. We're gonna lose a little bit of that on the commercial side by going through those guys, but we're not, that's only through the lawn care guys. So we're going to lose a little bit there, but otherwise we're at 100%. Here's what's great though. So when you get to, let's say 100,000 bottles of my 4-ounce repellent, my prices drop less than, I mean, more than 50%. My prices go from like my cost right now on a 4-ounce bottle of repellent, my original repellent is $2.73. That's with bottle, label, filled, and everything. When we get into 100,000 bottles, my cost drops below $1. So all of a sudden, then we're making 3-4 times our money on a lot of just the wholesale stuff. Now, obviously, ideally, we want to be, and this is an area where we're not. We need some help on this area. We really want to increase our online sales. So we're talking to a guy now in Arizona, and we're going to get set back up on Amazon. We were on there before, but we're going to get back on Amazon. And there's a guy that I'm talking to that had 100 million views on a particular product that he helped invent. 100 million views. He said in the first time, he said in the first 2 weeks, he made hundreds of thousands of dollars just from this one video that ended up going viral. And then somebody else picked it up, said, this is great. And so, and this is on a $150 item. And so, so I think with our stuff, we could do a lot better than that. We've already got some great scripts for doing some really funny videos that I think will get us some traction. So if we can get those online sales up, obviously, you know, then our margins are going to go up and we're going to make a little bit more money on that. So, our goal right now is to get, to increase our online sales, to increase our commercial, just so that our cash flow, because the commercial, I think, and I've said it all along, will help support the rest of it. We have a sprayer that we're introducing next year. It's also 100%, and we're going to be selling these for $150. It's not a big sprayer, still involves a lot of manual labor and things like that with it, but it's still, there's nothing else out there. So right now, if you want to treat your yard, you're going to pay a guy close to $200 a month, sometimes more. Plus get a misting system. So you could be spending $500 a month on mosquito control. And I got to tell you, even in the wealthiest parts of Dallas, I don't know anybody that wants to spend $500 a month on mosquito control. So we've been working on these sprayers for a long time. I've got a sprayer right now in a prototype version that will cover an entire acre with 1 2-minute spray. And you can have food sitting out for 5 or 6 hours and there will be no flies, no mosquitoes. We've had this where there's been hundreds of people at a party that have sat out at these things. And so, so what we're trying to do now is we've got a company in Houston called Fruition Tech Labs, and they're actually trying to make it pretty. They're doing some industrial design on it. So it's right now, it looks like it was made in somebody's garage, which it was. But it does work. And that's the main thing is, once again, see, my deal is quality. I just want to make sure that our products work. We don't need any more. I'll tell you, the industry is rife with these people. So if you look at like Dynatrap just sold. Well, Dynatrap, you can buy a Dynatrap for your yard for $250. So let me tell you guys, anybody, if you're listening to me now, please remember this. Traps don't work, okay? Traps don't work. They might reduce the number of mosquitoes a little bit, but in general, you're not going to get rid of your mosquitoes that way. And actually, Dynatrap was wanting to buy Mosquito Steve before they got this offer from this company called Woodstream. And but Dynatrap got up to $100 million in sales, selling products that don't work. That's what blows my mind. The one that started all this was called the Mosquito Magnet, and I bet you there's guys on here that have had one of those, and you probably know then that it didn't work. They got up to $125 million a year in sales for 3 years. You couldn't find those things. They were selling them so fast at Home Depot. But then, you know, a couple of years later, you go to Home Depot and they've got all the returns are stacked high to the ceiling because they don't work, you know? So that's why I push the sprayer side, because look, we know that there's a huge market for a sprayer for $250 all the way up to $1,200. We know that. That's been proven over and over by these trap guys. And so what I want is, I want to have a product like that you don't have to return. I want a product that, you know, that actually does work. And because not only is that, but here's the great thing about it. Here's what gets even better. Is so when we're selling sprayers, our refills So we make as much money within about 2 or 3 years, and you can see that on my finances. We make as much money on the refill business as we would on the machines themselves. And so what's even better is the margins on those are incredible. Our refill margins, so that misting product right now, we barely double our cost on that. When we're selling the refills for these smaller sprayers, then all of a sudden we're making 6, 7, 8 times our money on it. So the refill business is really, really strong on that. So that's what we're after. And that's why we're branching out. Now we've got, I'll tell you, because when you look at the market size, so just in the US, you're talking about maybe a $4 billion industry, but that is, that really doesn't even take into account your municipalities and things like that. And so, so when you start taking into, so for instance, Florida has a $40 million a year mosquito abatement program. If you count all the states in, you're looking at about $500 million just for municipalities to get rid of mosquitoes. You add pest control to that, and you're adding another couple of $1 billion. There's a lot of numbers. There's not any good solid numbers. Like there's not anybody on this planet that can tell you how many misting systems there are in the United States, which just baffles me. So, so there's not a lot of solid data on it. We think that there's about 400,000 systems. Well, there's 125 million homes in America. It seems like we ought to have at least 10 million systems out there, but they're not out there because they're expensive and they're spraying toxic stuff. So, so I believe with the sprayers, I think getting us to, 1 million, 2 million, 5 million sprayers over the course of a few years, I think is not that out of whack. People are looking, they're desperate for something. The reason they're buying those mosquito magnets and the Dynatraps is because they're desperate. They're desperate. There's nothing that works. Most people don't like spraying something on their skin. They want to go outside and just not have mosquitoes. Even, we had systems that just hit the remote control. That's all you got to do is hit that button 10 minutes before you go outside. We can't train people to do that. We had to set them up automatically. People just want to go out there and not have mosquitoes. So we've got different levels of sprayers. We'll have one that's fully automatic and probably one that Mosquito Nix and some of those guys can sell because they've already got hundreds of thousands of clients already out there, and they would love to have a sprayer that actually works. So we'll have one that's for them. That'll have all the bells and whistles and be very complicated, and we'll sell it to those guys. And what's great is they'll write checks. The problem with retail products, as you know, is that we've got to have a bunch of inventory sitting there and we got to spend a bunch of money to do it. And then you send it to the Walmarts of the world and then they don't want to pay you for 120 days. And so you know how that goes. Well, when you're talking to the guys like Mosquito Nix and Mosquito Squad and Mosquito Authority and all those guys, and even somebody like Arrow Pest Control, which has 25,000 customers. You know what? We take a sprayer to them that they can go to their customers and say, hey, look, here's a sprayer for under $1,000 that's going to cover your backyard and it's going to save you tons of money and it actually works. And it's using a natural product. I mean, there's like, who could object to that? Who would say no? But what's great is when we go to them and sell them the product, they're going to write us a check for 50% up front. So, and then they're going to pay us the rest when we deliver them. So we're not going to be stretched out for 120, 6 months, whatever it is. So.
Absolutely. And that was a really large market. And I think we were only talking about, we know we can't track sprayers. You have a sprayer available and ready to sell that you're actively selling. And then there's also the topical repellents, the yard sprays. I know we're also talking about portable misting systems. Sorry, the font got a little small there. There's a lot of pieces of this market.
There are. We've got 18 SKUs. Just in our liquid product, we've got 18 SKUs. So one of our sprayers that we developed, because the problem is you put a nozzle and a pump together and there's $65, $75 in cost. So you can't make a sprayer for under $100. We figured out how to mist effectively and build a sprayer that'll sell for under $100. Walmart told me in 2006 that if I could ever do that and with a natural product that they would sell 1 million of them a year. So we're very excited about that, but because it's a retail product, we're focusing on the commercial product first because we think that's going to be, cash flow wise, that'll help us out the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
just so y'all know, we also have, we've got we got a spider repellent. So our spider repellent and our fly repellent will be the basis for crop protection. So we actually have crop protection products. So if you look at the entire agricultural and consumer market for pesticides, you're talking about a $300 billion market across the world. And so all of a sudden, then we can, so in it, when you might say, well, gosh, you need to focus on this. Here's the problem is it's just like with the spray on repellent or with the misting concentrate. I made the misting concentrate and everybody, and what we were doing is saying, hey, our misting product works better than anything else, but then you need to spray DEET on because there's West Nile virus around. So then I had to develop the spray on repellent. Well, then we found that there were places where you needed a yard spray that to go with it. So we had to add that in. Well, and then a guy calls me up and says, does your yard spray work on horses and in barns? And so I went out there and next thing you know, we're developing a fly spray. Then it's like 25 times better than anything else on the market. And it's safe for the horse and for the people that's putting it on. So because of that, we've got products that will keep the grasshoppers from eating our crops. And so at some point, that market is ours. I really believe it. So you're looking at, multi-billion-dollar companies like Bayer. I guarantee you this. First of all, they're wanting products like this. In fact, what I had an entomologist tell me that I discovered the Holy Grail because everybody wants an EPA exempt product that actually works. And so I believe these guys they want our products. They really will. So that's our exit strategy. I mean, I honestly want to keep developing products and stay in the business for, 10 years. I'm old now. I'm used to want to do it for 20, but I'm getting old. So, but I want to be in it at least 10 more years and continue to develop products and solve this problem. This is a problem we can solve. We can solve the insect nuisance and deadly problem. We can save hundreds of thousands of years in Africa. They've actually tested our products over in Africa. I used to belong to the East Africa Chamber of Commerce, and they've tested them over there, and they work great. So at some point, these guys, once we get a little bit of market share, we've been flying under the radar, but we're not flying under the radar anymore. And I think at some point, these guys are going to knock on our door, and they're going to offer us a lot of money for these products because most of them have tried them. Like Bayer tried to introduce their own spray on repellent that was EPA exempt, and guess what? It failed. They spent millions of dollars on the product and it failed. You know why? Because in a laboratory, it worked great, but it didn't work in the real world. That's why I do what I do, because I know if these products work in the real world, and that's where most of our customers are, in the real world.
most of them all. Yeah, no, I think that's great. Real practical application, environmental positive impact, a global market. Really just kind of scratching the surface from a commercial and retail perspective, and really some real exciting opportunity for growth and expansion. We're coming down to the last about 10 minutes here, so I want to kind of remind people about the Q&A functionality, and then continue to direct people to the landing page on netcapital.com where you can invest directly into Mosquito Steve. We could not finish up this conversation without talking about one of the most important things that people think about when they're talking about investing, and that is the team. And I know, Steve, you talked a little bit about your background and how you really pioneer this thing and you're leading the ship, but you've added a couple of team members to the team that also help you work through the process. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Walter and Charles as well?
Yeah, so Walter and Charles are our advisors. Walter used to own Lambert's Landscaping, which was the largest landscaping company in the Southwest. He's very well known as an landscape architect. And so Walter was one of my earliest partners and invested. The whole reason I'm in the business is because Walter helped me get started. When I came up with the idea for the first portable mister, we sat down at Walter's table in his kitchen and he started drawing out. So we actually still have drawings, those original drawings that he drew. So he's been an integral part of this and kind of a cheerleader, honestly. So when you're doing something as long as I have, and especially those times when things are lean, because like last year, I got to tell you, last year I spent most of the year, not 2020, but 2019, I spent most of the year driving back and forth from here to Arkansas as we worked on the products, and I had very little time to just do sales stuff, and but again, it's been about the product. Well, what happens is your cash flow drops down to almost nothing, and it gets a little scary. And so Walter's there to encourage me and keep me going. And so, so I think now with Nick on board, we don't have to worry about that. Nick is as committed to get us through the off season and give us enough money. So he's the reason why we have displays and things like that. And then there's Nathan. So Nathan Peterson. So Nathan wanted to learn the business from the ground up. He was a 25-year-old kid. He's because he's 25 and not 60 like me. He's good at social media and things like that I am not. Well, hello there.
Yeah.
So he's really good at those things. So Nathan actually went out and bought himself an SR200 backpack sprayer and started spraying yards so he could learn about our product. So he's very green. He's got a lot to learn, but he's very hungry. He knows that his opportunity right now is awesome because as I get older and Nick gets older, if Nathan plays his cards right, he could be, running the company someday, here in 4 or 5 years or whatever. So Nathan's been a tremendous asset, and he's also the one that shot our videos. And so he knows about all that stuff. He can do all the editing and things like that I can't do. Now, I do believe in a lot of cases, like I've got a bookkeeper that's helping me out on some of the financial stuff. And then we've got this guy in Arizona that I think is going to be, I've got a great designer. So we're trying to surround ourselves with people that can add to this without us having to add a salary. And so I do believe we're going to be able to have a virtual company for the most part. We've got a great manufacturer, and they actually are able to handle everything from the order on up. And so so as we add distributors, and we're going to add the online sales, is really, that's the part that I really need the most help on, because even if we get $1 million, dollars worth of sales right now, unless we're going through Amazon, then if we want to try and ship it ourselves, then we're still, I got, a guy sitting there packing the stuff up, one guy, and then he ships it out United States Postal Service, and it's expensive, and people don't want to pay that. And so, so there's areas like that we're working on, but we're moving really, really fast right now. And usually this time of the year, we're not this busy, but we are extremely busy. The response to our marketing has been great. And here's what's working best for us. I dropped, like we had trouble getting somebody from Higginbotham to return our calls. So I drove to Comanche, Texas. I took some samples there. I talked to the receptionist up front. Before I got back to Dallas, I got a call from a guy that says, "Oh my gosh," says, "we got to meet. These products are awesome." So did the same thing with the distributor. They wouldn't even let us in the building. So I had to have a girl come out and meet us, and we gave her these samples, and she was just tickled. And before I got back, there was an email from a guy named Danny. He's the buyer. And so all of a sudden, now we're talking to them. So we're having tremendous luck with our marketing, and we're ready. We're just ready. And it's not just me anymore. I've got help, and I'm fired up. I'm more than I have been in a long time.
That's great to hear that, Steve. And the proof really is in the pudding with this product. That's what it comes down to. What you've been able to do is just create something really good. And for the first time, it sounds like you've been able to actually share the good word. And that's an exciting time to join in as an investor for a company, is when they're expanding with something that they already have. We're coming to these last couple of moments, Steve. If you could, I'm pretty old school. I love to do closing remarks still. So if there's something that, if there's a takeaway, if there's a nugget that you think that just bringing it home, well, what's the core piece that's most exciting to you, and why should the people watching this invest right now?
Well, and it's really, normally I could nail that right away, but I got to tell you, there are so many exciting things. It's almost difficult to be more concise about it. But I will tell you, so I know why people are afraid to ask me questions. I will tell you, I can talk about mosquitoes for a really, really long time, and I know it drives people nuts. And so here's the thing: I have no social life. I'm the oldest living, never been married, single heterosexual guy. So I've got no plans for family or anything like that. I mean, the deal is that's how devoted I am to this. This is 100%. This is what I do. This is what I do. And it's almost all day long, every day. And I know that just hard work is not what people want to hear, but there is a purpose for what we're doing. And I really do believe we can rid the world someday of chemical pesticides. And not because of the damage they're doing. Let's do it because ours work better. How about that? And so that's really been the message is yes, I want to preserve the planet. I want to save the bees and the butterflies, but first and foremost, I've got products that actually work. And so we can save lives and save a lot of heartache for a lot of people. And we've got a great, I tell you, Nick is he's amazing. He really is. He really is pushed. He's very rough around the edges, and he's a John Wayne type guy, former Marine. But you know what? He's pushing me, and it seems to be working so far.
That's exciting. I think that's a perfect way to bring it home. Dedication, passion, and if not to do it for the right thing for the environment and for the world, why not just because it works better? I think that it really encapsulates what you're working on, Mosquito Steve. So thank you again for everybody who joined us. Thanks for the attendees and the questions that you asked. Do remember that you can go directly to netcapital.com and search Mosquito Steve. Right there, you'll be able to see an invest button. And you can, with the push of a couple buttons, invest directly in this company, own a piece, and grow with them as they expand into new markets and continue to grow this business. Steve Moore, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Eric. Good luck to you, man. I mean, that's keep in touch. Let me know what happens out there, but I'll be saying prayers for you.
I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining. Take care now.
Thank y'all. Bye-bye.